Okay, guys, it's time to get legitimately worried about the Syria situation, I think. This is looking really bad. It looks like the U.S. and Syria, and therefore the U.S. and Iran and Russia might be on a collision course here. This is a story out of RT. Eurocontrol, an EU body responsible for handling air traffic over the continent, has issued a rapid alert notification to flight operators in the eastern Mediterranean, warning them to be ready for NATO rocket launches into Syria. Due to the possible launch of airstrikes into Syria with air-to-ground and/or cruise missiles within the next 72 hours, and the possibility of intermittent disruption of radio navigation equipment, due consideration needs to be taken when planning flight operations in the eastern Mediterranean. The alert warns pilots to be ready for specific NOTAMs, notices to airmen, concerning flight risks and obstacles that may arise. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump said that he was very seriously considering military action against the government of Bashar Assad over the alleged chemical attacks in Douma in Syria on April 7th. Trump said that a major decision would be taken within the following 24 to 48 hours. An airstrike was already carried out against a Syrian airbase on Monday, although no state has claimed responsibility. Damascus, Moscow, and Tehran have said the attack was carried out by Israel from Lebanese airspace. Now here's the really important part of this article. Russia has warned that if any of its personnel in the country are targeted, it will take response measures against both the rockets and the platforms from which they are fired. So I hope you understand the significance of that. Now, they're saying, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow through on it, but Russia is now saying that if the U.S. fires on Syria, then they will attack the ships and the rockets that they're fired from, or the planes, whatever. They'll fire the things that are firing the rockets, which means then that the U.S. will necessarily have to counterattack, because that could possibly kill American soldiers. And then we have a war with Russia on our hands, folks. I mean, Russia is right there in Syria. They're saying it. And look, I mean, there's nothing worse on the international stage for you to say something, to carry out a threat, say, draw a line in the sand, and to then not follow through on that threat, to not defend that line in the sand. And Vladimir Putin understands that. It's something very basic. You lose credibility if you make a threat and then don't act on it. If you say, if you do this, we'll do this, and if the other party does this and you don't do that. It's very simple. And when you combine that with this news that Europe is now saying, telling their air traffic controllers that you have to be wary because there might be a strike on Syria within the next 72 hours. This is getting to be very, very dangerous, folks. Very, very dangerous. And I hope I don't have to convince any of you that this was actually Assad doing this gas attack that's precipitating this whole mess. Makes zero logical sense for Assad to do this at this moment. It is literally the exact opposite of the strategic thing to do. I mean, just a 5-year-old could figure this out. And also, there's simply no evidence that Assad carried this out. I mean, the media and certain intelligence agencies are just saying it. Nobody's presenting any evidence. And we still haven't got evidence that that 2017 gas attack was Assad. We still, to this day, haven't got evidence of that. So, I mean, the U.S., or certain elements inside the U.S., Israel, Europe, are just using this as a pretense to fight against Syria because Assad is aligned with Russia and it's part of this big geopolitical chess match. And it could lead us into war. I mean, we've almost had World War III in the past. And for those of you who don't know, in this 1962, in the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Russian sub almost fired nuclear missiles. It was just the actions of one captain on that sub that prevented that from happening. The other two captains wanted to, but this one captain said that we won't, and it required all three captains in order for them to launch the nuclear missile. And if that captain hadn't been there, if he decided to go in the opposite direction, we'd be living in Fallout 3 right now. So it can happen. The U.S., the West, I think we sometimes get the sense that they're invincible, that nothing can touch us, but that just isn't true. Russia has a very advanced army. They actually have a bigger nuclear arsenal than the U.S. does, and they have missiles that can penetrate U.S. missile defense. with basically, perfect accuracy. They can do it without mistake, according to them anyways. And even if they didn't, even if they just had a large amount of missiles, the majority of which could be got by a U.S. missile defense, that still means that some of them are going to get through. And Russia has such a large nuclear arsenal that if they just simply fired all of them, they would still be able to destroy the U.S., even if our missiles, if our anti-missile program took out like 80% of them. They would still be able to destroy us, and we'd still be launched into a nuclear winter. So this is very, very, very serious shit, folks. Make no mistake about it. Donald Trump has said there will be a reaction. My gut is telling me that this is going to be a more severe reaction than last time. It's not what I want to happen, but it's what I think is going to happen. You got people all over the news calling for everything from destroying Assad's air force, which would basically be a massive, massive air campaign comparable to what we carried out in Libya, to actually removing Assad himself, which would necessitate a massive ground invasion with thousands, possibly tens of thousands of American troops, and which would cause direct conflict with Russia. So, we're standing on the precipice here, folks. This might not, it probably won't end, with the worst. It probably is not going to end with seeing the mushroom clouds on the horizon, but it could end in that way. It very well could. I just want to say a quick word about Donald Trump and all of this. I think that a lot of people put way too much stock in Donald Trump's character. The guy is, at heart, an opportunist who acts for his own self-interest and his own self-aggrandizement. That's who he is. There's a reason that he was a Democrat for his entire life, and then suddenly switched to be a Republican just when he was running for the Republican nomination. There's a reason that he fucked people over in business deals all throughout his career, and not just other big businessmen, but, small people. There's a reason that he ran a scam university. There's a reason that he said so many lies in the campaign trail. Now, and just to make this clear, I probably would have voted for him if I was an American citizen during the 2016 election, because I think Hillary Clinton was worse. But it doesn't mean that you should have any illusions about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is someone who acts in his own interests, his own ego, his own self-image, and I think that he said himself that he's a warlike person, that he likes war. So, part of him probably really wants to go into Syria and is only being held back by his base and the people in general. And that's really the important part, because we can influence him. Or at least Americans can influence him. I'm trying to do my part by making this video. Call the White House. Call the White House and tell him not to do this. Call the White House en masse and tell him, don't strike Syria. It's not in our interests. We don't care about Assad. We don't care about the Middle East. Rebuild our own country. Secure America's borders. Whatever your own interests are, tell him, do not go and strike Syria. Do not risk war with the second most powerful military force in the world because a bunch of neoliberal and neoconservative scumbags out of Tel Aviv and Washington told you to.